Hi, this is JJ Singh from Part-Time University, and we're continuing on with the textbook Elementary Algebra by John Redden. It's available at flatworldknowledge.com, and we're now on section 1.7, which is order of operations. We're going to learn how to, we're going to get to know grouping symbols and how to work with them, and we're going to understand how operations are ordered. There's a certain order that you follow when you're doing operations, and we're going to use that order in order to I said the word order twice. Anyway, that we're going to use that order of operations in order to simplify things. So let's start with the grouping symbols. There's parentheses, brackets, braces, and the fraction bar. These are all basically the same thing when it comes to ordering. Of course, the fraction bar separates a numerator from a denominator. Um, it's considered in the same category as these other things, even though it doesn't look like the other things at all. Parentheses, brackets, braces, they all look similar. And the absolute value lines, the straight lines, the pipe symbol on the left and right, those have the same precedence as these symbols as well. And so if you have parentheses that are surrounded by something, what they're surrounded by are probably going to be brackets. Okay, brackets usually go on the outside of parentheses. And you work from inside out. And you start with the absolute values first as well. Okay. Alright, so let's say we have 5 subtracting the difference 4 minus 12. So we're going to work with the group first. 4 minus 12 is negative 8. 5 minus negative 8, the negatives cancel, so you get a positive. 5 plus 8 is positive 13. Okay, here's a little bit more to it. Now here you see parentheses in the innermost, surrounded by brackets outside, and then you get these braces. Remember the braces, the curly things, that are even further outside from the brackets. So we're going to work inside out. We got 3 times negative 2 times negative times the difference negative 3 minus 1. So we're going to start inside out. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. Okay, that's multiplied by a negative sign. So that becomes positive 4. Positive 4 is multiplied by negative 2. So that becomes negative 8. Negative 8 is multiplied by 3. So that becomes negative 24. Okay, now let's look at a fraction. It's easier to read if instead of looking at the top line, you look at the first line of the solution on the left. Okay, so you've got 5 minus, and then you get an absolute value sign, 4 minus negative 3, and then another absolute value sign. That is separated with the fraction bar from the denominator, which also involves absolute values and another group. Okay. So let's start with the numerator first. We're going to do everything in the numerator and leave that separate from everything in the denominator. In the numerator we have inside out. On the inside we have 4 minus negative 3. The negatives cancel. That's 4 plus 3. That's 7. Absolute value 7 is 7. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. So you have negative 2 in the numerator. Okay, in the denominator you have an absolute value of something minus the difference of something. And so you can deal with the absolute value by itself. Absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. And you can deal with the difference by itself. The difference, 5 minus 7, is negative 2. So now you have positive 3 minus negative 2. The negatives cancel. You get 3 plus 2, and that's 5. So you get negative 2 divided by 5, which is negative 2/5, or negative 0.4 is another way of doing it. Okay, now here's another example. Negative of negative 3 times the sum 2 plus 3. We're going to work inside out. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Negative 15 times negative is positive 15. The order of operations, there's something called PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division. We're going to put those in the same category. We say PEMDAS, but you could easily just as easily say PEDMAS. And the AS, add, addition, subtraction, those are interchangeable as well. You could just as easily say PEDMAS or PEDMSA or PEMDASA, whatever. Multiplication, division stay together, addition, subtraction stay together, left to right on each of those. Okay, let's say you have 5 squared minus 4 times 3 divided by 12. Parentheses don't have any. Exponents, we do. We have a 5 squared. So we're going to work on that one first. 5 squared is 25. Okay. Next, what do we have? Multiplication, division. Yes, we have both of those, and we're going to do left to right. So 25 minus 4 times 3. Well, 4 times 3 is 12. Okay. And then we have division as well. That's to the right of the multiplication. So we'll do that one next. 12 divided by 12 is 1. Okay, so now we have 25 minus 1, which is 24. And sometimes you'll want to do division before multiplication if division is to the left. Okay, so here again we have, we're going through our order of operations, PEMDAS. P, parentheses. Do we have any parentheses, brackets, braces, fraction bar? No, none of that. We do have an exponent. 2 to the power 4 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 4 times 4, which is 16. We have a minus, divide, multiply, add. So we're going to do the divide part first. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and then we'll do the multiply part next. 4 times 2 is 8. So we have 16 minus 8 plus 11. 16 minus 8 is just 8. 8 plus 11 is 19. And this is a wrong way to do it. Just an example the wrong way. I don't want to spend too much time on the wrong way. Okay, here's another example. Here we have negative 3, and then we have subtract, exponent, add, another exponent. So how are we going to handle this? Sorry about that. Okay, so we have example 6, negative 3 minus 5 squared plus parentheses negative 7 quantity squared. Okay, so let's start with parentheses. We've got the negative 7. There's nothing to do within that parentheses, but we do have some exponents going on here, so the p is done with. Now let's deal with the exponents. Negative 3 minus 5 squared. Well, 5 squared is 25, and then you've got adding negative 7 quantity squared. What's negative 7 times negative 7? It's positive 49, right? So you have negative 3 minus 25. We're doing we don't have any multiplication or division, so we're just doing addition and subtraction from left to right. Minus 3 minus 25 is what? I'll give you a second. Minus 28, okay? Then we're going to add positive 49. So negative 28 plus 49 is positive 21, okay? You can verify that by hand if you prefer. Okay, here's another example. Again, I see some, okay, I see subtraction, parentheses, exponent, subtraction, addition, multiplication. Okay, so let's start with the parentheses. We had this big long bracket, and within that we have a parentheses, but we're not really doing anything in that parentheses. It's just a negative 3. It's already simplified. So the next thing to do, we are going to work inside out within the parentheses. So we're going to ignore everything on the outside of the parentheses, and by that I mean the bracket, sorry. We're going to ignore everything on the outside of the bracket, just simplify what's inside the bracket. And inside the bracket, we don't have any more parentheses to deal with. We do have exponents, multiplication, subtraction, and addition. So let's do exponents first, right? Going by PEMDAS. 2 to the power 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Then we got subtraction, addition, then we got multiplication. 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. Okay, so now we have 8 minus 5 plus negative 21. 8 minus 5 is just positive 3. Adding negative 21 is the same as subtracting 21. Subtracting positive 21. Right? So 3 minus 21 is negative 18. So that's everything inside the bracket. Now, outside the bracket we have subtraction, multiplication. We have to do the multiplication first. So we're going to do 3 times negative 18, which is negative 54. I'm sorry, it's negative 3 times negative 18 because it's being subtracted. Or if you want to think of it as positive 3, maybe we should think of it as positive 3. Okay, so positive 3 times negative 18 is negative 54. Now we're going to subtract 5 minus negative 54, which is the same as 5 plus 54 because the negatives cancel out. So 5 plus 54 is 59. Here's another wrong way of doing it. I don't want you to think about the wrong ways. I just want you looking at the right ways. And let's do another example. Here we've got exponent, subtraction, bracket, subtraction, parentheses, exponent, subtraction, parentheses, bracket. Okay, so we're going to go inside out on the parentheses. The innermost parentheses has 4 squared minus 10. That's exponent and then subtraction. So 4 squared is the exponent. We're going to do exponent first. 4 squared is 16. 16 minus 10 is 6. That's everything inside the parentheses. Now let's go inside the bracket. 5 minus 6 is negative 1. That's everything inside the bracket. Okay? Negative 3 squared minus negative 1. Now I want you to be careful with this negative 3 squared, because negative 3 squared is not the same as negative 3 quantity squared. It's negative 3 times 3. So negative 9 minus negative 1 is the same as negative 9 plus positive 1, which is negative 8. Okay, so here I've got a fraction bar, exponent, dividing, bracket, fraction bar, subtracting, exponent. Okay, so again we're going to go inside out on the parentheses here. We've got the innermost parentheses. Inside the bracket we have a parentheses with an exponent on it. Let's just deal with that first because the exponent has precedence when it comes to order of operations. So we've got negative half to the power 3, which is negative half, and by the way that's quantity cubed. Negative half quantity cubed, so that's negative half times negative half times negative half. When you have an odd number of negatives being multiplied, you end up with just a single negative. If you have an even number of negatives multiplied, they cancel each other out. Each of the pairs cancels each other out. But here we're going to have a negative at the end. So we're going to have negative half times half times half, which is 1 over 2 times 2 times 2, which is 1/8, negative 1/8. Okay? So we got 5/3 minus negative 1/8. Now 5/3 is going to be a little tricky because it's got a different denominator than 1/8 does. But one thing we can do first off is we can get rid of these two negatives. 5/3 minus negative 1/8 is the same as 5/3 plus 1 positive 1/8, right? So as you see here in the solution, what they use is a lowest common denominator of 24. So 5/3 becomes 40/24 because you multiply the numerator by 8 and the denominator by 8. 1/8 becomes 3/24 because you multiply the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 3. So just to make things simpler, because I'm not writing stuff down here, let's just look at the solution a bit. We've got 40/24 plus 3/24, and that adds up to 43/24. So that's everything inside the bracket. Now we can go to this, which is a parentheses with nothing to do in it. It's simplified, but it has an exponent. So negative 2/3 quantity squared is the same as negative 2/3 times negative 2/3. You have an even number of negative signs, so they cancel each other out when you're multiplying. So this is the same as 2/3 times 2/3, which is the same as 2 times 2 over 3 times 3, which is 4 times 9, 4 ninths. Okay, now so you have 4 ninths divided by 43/24. Let's just look at the solution to make it easier. 4 ninths divided by 43/24. Well, you can flip that over, flip the numerator to the denominator, and flip the denominator to the numerator, and you end up with 4 ninths times 24/43. Well, you can cancel a little bit here, not a whole lot, but you can cancel a little bit. You see that 9 is 3 times 3, 24 is 3 times 8, so you can take 3 out, leave 3 down here, take 3 out, leave 8 up here. So you end up with 4 times 8 is 32 in the numerator, 3 times 43 is 129 in the denominator. That was maybe a little bit more complicated question. Okay, here's another example, this one with absolute values in it. We've got, let's see, let's just look left to right here. We've got a subtraction, absolute value with a subtraction in it. Then we've got addition, and then we've got an exponent. Okay, so let's start with our parentheses first, which is the same as absolute value. So in the absolute value signs, we've got -4 minus 3, which is the same as -7. And in the parentheses, we have -2. It's already simplified. But there is an exponent, so let's just knock that exponent out. -2 quantity to the 4 is the same as -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. We got an even number of negatives, so those all cancel out when you're multiplying. So you have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is the same as 4 times 4, which is 16. Okay, so now you have, inside the absolute value sign, you have -7. The absolute value of that is +7. That's being multiplied, so you have subtraction, multiplication, and addition. The multiplication takes precedence, right? So you have 4 times 7, that's 28. 2 minus 28 is -26, and you add 16 to that, and you get -10. Okay, so there's your answer there. Okay, let's try one more example. Here we've got division, multiplication, absolute value sign with addition inside it, and another absolute value sign inside it, and then we have on the outside of it addition with the parentheses and an exponent. Okay, so we're going to treat these parentheses, we're going to treat these absolute value signs the same way we would treat parentheses. We're going to start inside out. So here there's nothing to do. -4 is already simplified. -3 absolute value sign it on that means becomes +3. So that's +3. So you have -4 plus +3, which is -1. You take the absolute value of that, and you get +1, and you're going to have to multiply that. Might as well multiply that right now. So you get +1 times 2, and that's equal to 2. So all of this becomes 2. Okay. Now looking across, I got divide, multiply, add, exponent. Okay, so we're going to do the exponent first. -3 quantity squared is the same as -3 times -3. You get an even number of negatives. When multiplying, those negatives cancel out because there's an even number. So -3 times -3 is the same as 3 times 3, which is 9. Okay, now we got divide, multiply, and add. So let's go left to right with the divide and multiply first. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 2 times, this was all equal to 2, is 4. Okay, so this is all equal to 4. 4 plus 9 is 13, and that's our answer. So what did we learn in this section? The grouping symbols tell you which operations to do first. We hit up the parentheses, brackets, braces, and fraction bar, as well as absolute values first. We do those inside out. And then that's all the P in the PEMDAS acronym. Okay, so P is first, then exponents. Multiplication, division, left to right, then addition to subtraction, left to right, or this could be division and multiplication, left to right, subtraction, addition, left to right. Okay? Don't do multiplication before division. Don't do addition before subtraction. You're going to do left to right, okay? I can't emphasize that enough. Do the odd numbered exercises here. And there's some word problems here as well. And the answers to the odd numbered exercises are shown at the end. And thank you for paying attention.